What's good, YouTube? It's your boy SCraftBlendz back again with another barber tutorial, and today we have my little cousin Trey in the chair and we're gonna do a mid fade on him, try to make this thing blurry as possible. We're gonna take a little bit off the top, but first we're gonna start by laying the foundation of this haircut with a number 3, going right off the parietal ridge area. I really feel like a number 3 or number 2 should always be your first move, like to lay the foundation, to have something clean to blend into. However, lately I've really been leaning towards starting with that number 3 and then taking the number 2 guard like I have on right now and just blending right into that number 3 to lay a good foundation, to clean everything up, to start our blend into. Sometimes I do a fade down technique where I'll just go ahead and drop down to that 1.5 and then the 1 and then the 0 guard and then, you know, just the blade. However, today I'm gonna fade up, but regardless of what I do, I like to start out by laying a foundation with that number 3 and the number 2. So now I'm gonna set my first guideline after we've cleaned up, you know, everything with that 3 and 2. We're gonna clean up underneath there. I'll come back later and shave it with the shaver. However, we're gonna hit it with the trimmer. Now watch this. Being we had our trimmers flipped over and set that initial guideline in, now I'm going to hold them like I'm holding them now and just tap at that line so that way we don't have to struggle with any lines. Just soften that line up just a little bit. Now we're gonna go ahead and come in with the clipper all the way open, no guard, and we're gonna set that second guideline, and then from here we'll basically drop down halfway, so it'll be halfway between the second guideline and the first guideline with the blade halfway closed, and then I'll drop down towards that first guideline with the blade all the way closed to tap at that line to blend it out. Now let me say this, just for those who are wondering, yes, I have, this is a wall senior. It is painted black and all that good stuff, but it is a wall senior, and I do have the modified bracket on it so that I could have the Andis Master blade on it, simply because I like to use the purple magnetic guards. However, know this, there's nothing really different about this clipper and guards, to be honest with you. The blade opens up ultimately just the same amount that the regular senior blade opens up to, and the purple magnetic guards are the same measurements for the most part as the regular wall premium guards. Now sometimes that 0 magnetic guard might not get as close as that half senior guard, so sometimes I'll put that senior guard on a different clipper, that half guard, and just try to knock out that line, but pretty much the rest of them are spot on. So if you're wondering like, hey man, can you start cutting with, you know, just a regular senior or a magic clip or something like that that's not modified, so we can actually see how we would do it, being we don't have a modified clipper, it's the same exact technique. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what clipper you use, whether it's the seniors, the masters, the babyless, whatever, the technique is the same, and there may just be a slight difference in the lengths of guards or the blade open, but not much. But it's the technique that we want to focus on and the system. You'll have to always work on, you know, the details of, do I need to open the blade a little more or close it? That's always going to be the case. So don't worry about my clipper versus your clipper. It basically is doing the same thing. So now that we went in about, you know, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch on that second guideline and then tried our best to blend that out, now we're coming in with a number 1 guard. So I'm skipping the 0 guard and just going right in with a number 1 open, blending into the number 2 the best that I can, and then we'll close that number 1 and start trying to tie in that second guideline into you know, into the rest of the fade. Now let me say this, I think this is a great step to do if you want to really focus on your fade. to set in your first guideline, shave underneath it, come in with an open blade as your second guideline, and then start, closing that and fading that first guideline out. And then instead of going up to a half guard or to a 0 guard, go ahead and go right into your 1. So stick with your numbers, like 1, 2, 3, and then come in afterwards and use the half guards to tie those in. So right now I went ahead and I'm using the half guard just to tie the bald section or the open blade section into that number 1. So let's focus on the half guards, as we'll call them like tie clippers, or tie guards rather, just something that we tie those other guards together, right? So, and you don't even have to open it fully, just start with it halfway open, tapping at the line, and close it as needed to just knock that line completely out. If you are having trouble, if you have a modified blade like I do, or you're using the masters and you have that 0 guard and you're having any trouble, sometimes I will grab like my Gamma Ergos or my regular wall seniors, just so I can put on that little half guard and tap at that line even better. Or I just take the guards off and go back in with just the open blade, trying to blend that out, like I'm doing right now. And then you'll see in just a minute, we'll put the 1.5 guard on to tie in the 1 open to the 2. So there again, let's focus on laying a foundation with open blade, a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3. We'll only use the half guards after to tie in the open blade to the 1, and we'll use the 1.5 guard to tie in that 1 open into the 2. So right now I'm just kind of tapping just to make sure that I get the line as blended as possible. As you know, usually whenever we're fading people's hair, a lot of people, almost everyone, has little patches in their hair where there's hair skin, and we just need to go ahead and tap at those darker areas to give a better blend. Right now I'm doing that with the clipper. In a little bit I'll use my shear over comb technique that I use to just kind of knock out any little dark spots I see to give it a better blend. So now I'm coming in probably a good 1/2 inch underneath the first initial guideline that I made, and I'm just kind of flicking around underneath there, and then I'll shave up under what I've flicked at. If you shave up all the way to that line, sometimes you'll get it too bald or too harsh of a line. So I just kind of flick down, or I just kind of touch the trimmer around that spot, and then underneath that I'll shave up to get it nice and bald. Now I'm just putting the picture in the frame so we can see what we're working with, by putting that front line up on there. And now I'm coming with that 1.5 guard, and I have that open halfway as well, and I'll close it as needed. And the reason you don't need to open it up fully is because the number 2 close is actually shorter than a 1.5 open, so you're not really even hitting anything unless it's halfway closed, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to come in with my thinning shears and just tapping around at any little dark spots or dark areas that I see, because pretty much we know that everything is smooth because we use the proper guards, we blended them together. But there again, sometimes hair, it can have those dark spots. So I like to come in and just soften up those spots with my thinning shears, or I'll do that with shear over comb. However, I did that for a little bit, and then I did the same to the back. For sake of time, I'm not really going to focus on the back. I'm just kind of showing you the technique. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Number 3, I'm speeding it up for the sake of time, because we're also going to do his beard. And some people have asked, like how I do beards as well, as far as shaping them up. So I'm going to show you that today. So we're doing the number 3 right into the parietal ridge area, and then we did the number 2 into that number 3, cleaning up the bottom. And watch, after I shave off the bottom, I tap that line just to kind of soften up that harsh line we made with our clippers, our trimmers flipped over. So now I'll come back, same exact step, coming in about a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch with my open blade. I'll close it halfway, dropping halfway between that second guideline and first guideline, and then I'll close it all the way, knocking out that bottom guideline. And then instead of jumping into the half guard or the 0 guard, we're just going to go straight into that 1 open, and we'll set that next guideline, and then we'll go ahead and close the number 1, flicking at that second guideline that we have now, that really dark prominent guideline that you see. All right, so 1 open, blending into that number 2 closed. Now we're going to close it, knocking out that line to the best of our ability. Because we won't be able to get it all the way blended, we'll grab the 0 guard halfway open. Remember, there's no need to open it all the way because the half guard fully open is actually longer than the closed one. So we'll just start with it halfway open to save time, and we'll tap at that line and close it until we can knock that line out. On this side, I wanted to show you if I'm having trouble getting that line out, instead of jumping back to the open blade, I'll go ahead and grab my, like I said, my Gamma Ergos or something with that half blade on there and start tapping at that line just to soften up that line a little bit to get a better transition. So actually, I went ahead and grabbed my clippers open blade and working at it. I thought I'd grab my gammas. I might do that in a minute. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to shave on that side and make sure it's nice and clean underneath that line. Remember, stay a little bit lower than the initial guideline that you started, so you're not, creating a new line. All right, I guess I didn't grab the gammas. Thought I did. So I went ahead and used the number 1 to kind of hit the hairs underneath his bangs there. I noticed that his hair looked like it had been shaved there before, so I asked him if that's something that he does. He said yes. So I went ahead and trimmed that up like his original barber does, and then lined them up, put a little bit of color enhancement on there. So now I'm cutting the top. Usually you guys know that I use clippers on top, but I figured I'd use shears today just to kind of show you what I do. So I start with the middle section, and I just simply move a little bit further back and grab another section and cutting all the same length. On that side, the second section that I did, I wanted to leave it a little bit longer because he's going to be combing it over. But as you can see on this third section, I round my fingers down towards that number 3, and I just blend right into that number 3. So now this is called cross cutting. So I just work from one side of the head to the next, basically making my sections and just trying to knock out any of those peaks and valleys and smooth everything. Now this is where I come in, and I'm skipping because of time, but I just go around and I'm tying in that number 3 to those longer hairs. So I'll comb it down and see any of the longer hairs, and I just kind of go straight up with that and tie that in. Now while I have shear and comb in hand, I'll go ahead and come in and do a little bit of detailing with that, knocking out any little dark spots that I see there. Again, because of the speckles in the hair, you just do the best you can, man, and keep it moving, So on the beard, I started with the number 1, and I realized I made a harsh line, so I grabbed my number 2 and kind of flicked at that to blend it better. And then my 0 guard, and now my open blade. And I'm just kind of doing like a reverse fade technique, what I would do on the fade. Now I'm doing it on the beard. And then I'll come in and clean up my back line just to get that looking sharp. And I don't think he's ever had color enhancement before, so I'm gonna be very light with it. I don't want it to look too dark, plus we want it to look natural, but I'll set my my guideline in with the color. Notice I didn't use the trimmers, I just came straight in with the color to create the guideline, and then I just trimmed that down with the razor all the way to the color line that I made. And what's cool is when you do that, then you can stand in front of them and spray the other side with color as well, just to you know, get that thing even as possible before you hit it with the blade. Plus it keeps it fuller. It's a good way to not keep chasing that line down the cheek. If you put that color on there and you just shave down to the color, it really keeps that beard nice and full. So what I like to do is kind of come in with clipper over comb and set an initial guideline as far as the length and the shape that I want, and then I come in with freehand and just knock out any little spots. So as you can see, I kind of cleaned up that left side, and then once I did that, I tied it into the middle, and now I'm just freehanding. So I'll come back into the right side, hit it with clipper over comb to give that shape that I'm looking for. Make sure all those hairs are even by lifting them up, hitting them with that clipper over comb, and then I come in and hit the loose hairs. We didn't want to take a whole lot off, but we did want to clean it up. So as you can see, just coming in, shaping it with clipper over comb, hitting those loose long hairs. And now to clean it up even more, I usually always come in with my shears and I just hit both sides. I stand from the back so I can see from angles where those hairs are at. Now moving right up to the bangs, they were a little long, so we did some point cutting, giving it some texture. Now I'm throwing some Tomb 45 indestructible clay in there. I really love the clay. I don't even know that we're producing it anymore or selling it, but it gives it a nice texture look. So if you can find clay, that's always my go-to. So now once again, we're doing some detail work, and I'll just move my way all the way around the head, man, just doing detail work, knocking out little spots that I see, and then I'll come in. If I need to grab the clippers, I'll do that. But man, I just go around the head and you know, just do detail work. But if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, you can do that at S.Craft_blends with a Z. I'll definitely love for you to check out my work. Follow me over there. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do that. Man, it's growing and I'm excited about the content we're bringing. Also, make sure you like this video and leave a comment, man. It's always good to hear what you got to say. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Peace.